We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am Eric.
And I am Tig.
All right. We are Nerd Out with me. You are joining us for the 90s cast, which is a 120 episode journey through the 1990s, plus
shoes and glasses. What are we plusing? What else is involved?
Plus an additional 120 episodes.
Oh yes, for the Patreon subscribers.
That's right. The 120 bonus episodes. Which what that means is every week we advance forward 1 month through the 1990s.
All the way to December 1999.
That's right, starting in January 1990, obviously, talking about all sorts of stuff from the 90s, such as
shoes, food, movies, TV shows, games. What else has happened in the 90s?
I mean, we talk about news of the day.
Everything that made the 90s an amazing decade.
That's right, and we're often drinking a good bit of beer while we're doing this, so sometimes you have to bear with us.
Yes. So what's going on? This is August of is this August 1991?
That's right, August of 1991. We're going to deal with this week.
It's hot.
Well, yeah, this is definitely hot for, especially for the video game folks, because in August of 1991, something big happened.
The SNES came out.
Yeah, Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo was released, and we're going to bring our buddy back, who was previously only on a Patreon bonus episode, right?
Yes, a very knowledgeable man of video game YouTube fame.
That's right, Mr. Let's Suck Copernicus Nerdicus.
Tom Torre.
Yeah, he's going to join us for the entire episode as we talk about that. He's going to be joining us via Skype, so if you come back in a moment, you'll get to hear that. And that'll be swell.
That will be an amazing time.
Yeah.
When you decide to step up to this kind of power, this kind of challenge, this kind of flying, crashing feeling, when you decide to get serious, there's only one place to come. The games of Super Nintendo. No one else creates this kind of experience, because no one else creates these kinds of games. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
On August 23rd, 1991, the Super Nintendo came out in the United States. This ended up being, of course, one of the biggest and most popular consoles of all time. It was absolutely huge.
And I didn't own one.
No, I didn't own one until adulthood either. But it was a direct competitor to the Sega Genesis, which had come out several years prior. The Genesis actually kind of launched the 16-bit era earlier than Nintendo did, obviously, and at the time was dominating the video game market. But the Super Nintendo, sometimes called the SNES, quickly became a direct head-to-head competitor. It had a pretty small launch lineup. In the US, its launch lineup was Super Mario World, which we have talked about in a previous episode, F-Zero, and Pilot Wings. And then, of course, many games followed after that. And to talk with us about that is Copernicus Nerdicus.
Tom Torre.
The worst video game Let's Player on YouTube, I think.
Oh, I am terrible. Absolute worst.
Fantastic. Now, I mean, Tom, we had to bring you in because you are a Nintendo guy through and through. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes, for me it was only Nintendo growing up. I didn't have any other system but Nintendo systems.
And you said just before we brought you on, what is it that you have sitting in front of you right now?
I actually had to grab my original Super Nintendo box. This is the one I bought. Well, I didn't buy it, but my dad bought for me when I was a kid, with the proof of purchase still attached to it. So this is my original box.
That is very, very cool, with the proof of purchase.
Straight from my attic, yes.
Very cool.
Still sitting on my lap.
Now, before we get into the launch title games, one of which we've already talked about, Super Mario World. What were the first Super Nintendo games that you had when you first got that system?
It was Pilot Wing. I actually had all three launch titles. I had Mario World because it came with it. I had Pilot Wings and I had F-Zero.
Oh, so look at Mr. Oh, he's like one of the Hiltons, one of the Trumps over here.
My middle class family was rolling in those food stamps.
Beautiful.
All the food food stamps for Super Nintendo games.
My goodness.
Well, see, then that's perfect because I wanted to touch on all of the launch games. It's interesting that this was three games, and that was considered the big launch at the time. Now, usually what are they hitting about now? Between 8 to a dozen games on a console launch. A lot of third party these days. There wasn't a lot of third party stuff back then, but I don't know if I could, like, if they launched a new console now and there was only 3 games, I think I'd be like, screw you. I'm waiting.
It usually. Geez, I don't even know if they really ever have so much as a launch game.
Yeah, of course they do.
But it's always usually only 1 or 2, right, Tom?
Well, you got to think about Nintendo's the one that suffers from that. Nintendo has a habit of only releasing like 1 or 2 with all their systems, and they do that all the time.
Right.
Xbox and PlayStation have like maybe 5 to 6, but most of them are garbage anyway. Like, I remember PlayStation 2 launched, like, their hit game was Fantavision or something, which was like a fireworks game. Like, well,
I remember that.
Big launch title, so I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Nintendo comes out with a hot title when they release their system. So.
Well, because they've got those in-company characters that everybody absolutely loves. So we've already talked about Super Mario World. We had you on for a Patreon bonus episode on that, and I don't know, maybe we'll drag that out for a segment and add it to this. I don't know, we'll see. But all right, so let's talk a little bit then about F-Zero, because this was at the time a pretty groundbreaking game. It incorporated some pseudo 3D graphics that we really hadn't.
Mode 7.
Yeah, that's right, the Mode 7 graphics that we really hadn't seen at the time. This was like F-Zero was like a futuristic racing game that ended up inspiring all sorts of stuff that came after. What's the big one that's very similar to this? That was on PlayStation. That was real big on PlayStation for a while.
Oh yeah. What was that called? I loved that game.
Yeah. It was rad.
I'd have to find that. Yeah.
But
it's on the tip of my tongue. I know what you're talking about.
But so F-Zero and Mode 7 graphics. Talk to us, Tom, a little bit about why this game was a pretty big deal.
Well, first of all, I mean, it was the go-to multiplayer game you had for Super Nintendo straight off the bat. I mean, it was racing, fast-speed racing, topping like hundreds and hundreds of miles per hour on these racetracks that would just drive you absolutely insane. And the thing is, F-Zero was probably one of the hardest games on the Super Nintendo at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Even after they released like their first 100 games in their library, F-Zero was downright impossible to master. If you were good at it, you were good at it. And I wasn't one of those people that was good at it. I was terrible at that game. I would even in the easiest mode, I would be in last place constantly in the races. It was, I don't know, visually it was awesome. The speed was there. The tracks were amazing, but
yeah, I think the speed being there was sort of a new thing for Nintendo. And I mean, how much do you think that? Well, I guess it couldn't have been too much of a reaction because Sonic had only just come out the month prior, so it couldn't have been a reaction to Sonic. And now that I think about it, and in fact, F-Zero was initially released in November of 1990 in Japan. So yeah, it couldn't have been a reaction to Sonic because Sonic came out the month prior. I was almost going to make the argument that
I think we talked about that.
I was almost going to make the argument that to some extent that maybe the game was a little bit of a reaction to Sega's hey, fast. But yeah, I proved myself wrong before I even got that thought out.
I think they're at the point though where all these companies are coming out with these just classic like those RC Pro-Am type games and everything. They wanted something different that was still a racing game, and this is just Nintendo's answer. What they typically do is like, let's do something that's been done before and just put our own twist on it.
Right.
Do you think
F-Zero.
Do you think it was also a way to show off like the graphics in some way?
Well, yeah, that was their introduction with Mode 7. Their whole big thing about like they had these fake 3D graphics in the background that they're able to loop constantly. It's like a background layer that could just like rotate and scale based on perspective, and it just has this weird feeling that you're looking at a 3D environment, but you're not. And sometimes it's pretty nauseating to look at, but it is pretty cool.
Was that when they had like is that what it was with the different layers where the background was moving slower than the different?
No. That was parallax scrolling.
Okay.
Parallax scrolling. Yeah.
Right. You're right. No. Yeah. Mode 7. If you remember the early Mario Kart from the Super Nintendo.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's sort of like you're on this sort of flat map and it's rotating around. It gives the impression that it's 3D, but it's sort of
makes me want to puke.
It's fake 3D. When it looks good, it looks really good. Like, super impressive for this era. But yeah, but Tom's also right. At times, it could also just give you vertigo. Wipeout, incidentally, is the game series that we were thinking of. Because yeah, this game ended up being pretty influential, right? I mean, you had the Wipeout series. You had a bunch of others that sort of riffed on this futuristic racing kind of thing, and I guess this ended up turning into a whole series right after the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, they had a few. They had the ones on GameCube and some on the Wii. They haven't had the one on the GameCube is probably the best one, and there hasn't been that. I don't think there was one for Wii U or anything, but they weren't as good in the future ones as they were in the past. I don't know what they did with the games, but they just didn't have the same vibe. I think they were trying to make it more like a cross between Mario Kart-ish and F-Zero, but I always felt like the original F-Zero was still probably the best one out of all of them.
Right.
But the GameCube one was definitely probably close to it.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. I'm looking at trying to look at a little list here to see. Yeah, we had F-Zero was of course in 1990. We're talking about 1991 when it came out here in the U.S. 96 there was a BS F-Zero Grand Prix and BS F-Zero Grand Prix 2 in 97. F-Zero X in 98. F-Zero
64. Yeah.
F-Zero X expansion kit in 2000. I guess that's also was N64.
Yeah.
Maximum Velocity in 2001. And then
Those are the Game Boy ones, right?
Let's see. According to Vicky, that was Game Boy Advance. And then 2003, we had 3 F-Zero games: F-Zero GX, F-Zero AX, and GP Legends. And according to the Vicky, the F-Zero GX was for GameCube. AX was... I don't know. Oh, that was the arcade version. And
I didn't even know they came out with an arcade
version. Yeah, and GP Legend was for the Game Boy Advance. Now, wait a second. Interesting. You know who published F-Zero AX? Sega!
Oh, boy.
They're using their Speed influence.
Yeah, they published that in the arcades, of course, because Sega has always dominated the arcades.
Oh, yeah.
So,
they jumped ship.
So when was the last time that you've gone back to F-Zero? Is this a game that you still play from time to time?
I played 2 weeks ago on the Super Nintendo, but it's a game that makes you throw the controller against the wall. It is so fast and dizzying and frustrating when you're dealing not only with the computer, which is insanely good at driving, but then you're dealing with one of my friends who is a pro F-Zero racer or something, who won't even pick up the game for 10 years, pick it up again, and all of a sudden, oh, I'm a natural, I'll just get first place every single goddamn time. But it's definitely one of those go-to games. It's a great party game when you're drunk.
Yeah.
You're moving that fast when you're drunk. And it's also fun when you have Captain Falcon and everybody's just going Falco Punch! Falco Punch!
That's pretty cool.
That's more Smash Brothers, but Captain Falcon was originated in F-Zero, so...
So you think if we broke out the game now and with a room full of people, it'd be still a blast?
Yes, it would have to be.
Cool. So all right, so we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back in the next segment to talk about a game that is probably a little less of a blast and holds up a little less better, Pilot Wings. We'll be back in a minute. All right, we're all wrapped up with Tom Torre. That was pretty fun.
That was fun.
To talk about shitty Nintendo games by shitty Nintendo people.
Oh my god.
Oh, that's right. It wouldn't be a podcast if I wasn't mean about something. Gotta be mean about some things.
It's gotta be something.
Now, we actually brought him back for the bonus segment, right?
Yes.
Which was kind of fun. In the bonus segment, which you can find at patreon.com/nerdoutwithme, we talk about the movies that came out in August of 1990.
Which were all terrible.
No, they weren't. They were, but there's some interesting stories that come out of them.
The podcast was better than the movies that came out.
Yeah, yes, I suppose that might be true. You might be right about that. Next week, we are going to be talking about... Oh, boy. Actually, next week is super exciting. September 1991 was the bomb when it comes to music. Nirvana's Nevermind, Pearl Jam's 10, Guns N' Roses' Use Your Illusions records, Metallica's self-titled Metallica record, Red Hot Chili Peppers' Blood Sugar Sex Magic, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the French Press's Home Base, Blur's Leisure, Cypress Hill's debut record, Pixies' Trump, the Le Monde. There's a lot of freaking music that all came out in September of 1991.
This might be a long...
So... all of next week, including the bonus episode, is going to be nothing but music. Look out for that at nerdoutwithme.com, on all your podcast subscriber places, and then aren't we on some social media things?
We're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Google Plus.
Google Plus.
We're actually pretty big on Google Plus, I gotta admit. I know that sounds really weird.
I just, full disclosure, Tig is, for the most part, the social media guy. I do very little of any of that.
Eric just pops on, screams at people, and then disappears.
Yeah, pretty much, because,
But that's what people like.
Social media can bite my crank.
Oh my god.
My crank can
Crank
bite
biting.
it. Can bite it.
Maybe we'll have to get Brainy Bryan or Bootsy back on for the music talk.
We're recording that in like 5 minutes, so how are we going to do that?
Maybe me and you will talk about it.
Yeah. I think that will be a little more realistic. The good news is that there's more music to come in the October.
Oh God, yeah, this is just the beginning of it.
Yeah, because
the 90s is
the October '91 episode. Soundgarden's Bad Motorfinger, Public Enemy's The Enemy Strikes Black, Matthew Sweet's Girlfriend, U2's Achtung Baby in the November.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of music left to come. 91 was
it's
an amazing year for music.
I've been looking forward to
this. In fact, I want to wrap up this damn outro so we can get to the next episode.
Okay, let's get us the hell out of here.
Yeah, so let's do that. So thanks, folks, for listening. If you like what you've been listening to, please go to patreon.com/nerdoutwithme and support us, even if it's only for like $1 a month. Seriously, $1 a month. You get several hours more of this crap.
And people eating Eric's hot peppers.
That's true, yeah. And bonus videos and all sorts of other stuff, so that's all really neat. $1-2 a month, it means the world to us.
Because we can buy a new microphone.
That's true, and it helps, and it helps us do what we do. So thanks for listening, we'll be back.
Bye.
I wanted the Super Nintendo because I guess I was just a huge Mario fan in general, and I don't know. I had Nintendo Power, and I was just already having those images planted in my brain for this brand new system, and sure enough, I still have it, and it still has a telephone number I can call if I have any problems with it. The system I have is still my original Super Nintendo system too.
So you have to call that number.
Dude, I really want to call this number. I wonder if it's still the original Nintendo number.
Is it an 800 number?
Yeah, it's 1-800-255-3700.
It's probably some sort of like...
Why don't you Tig, get your phone? Let's call it up.
I'm gonna Google this number too.
Yeah.
I want to get a sex line on that.
Hold on. All right.
I'll try to get a sex
read
line.
it out to him.
1-800. 255. 3700.
255 is
We'll take 1-800 now.
I know.
All right, I'm gonna put on speaker. Let's see what this says.
Let's see.
Hi. Thank you for calling Nintendo.
What?
Connect you to a specialist quickly. Let's get started.
Para asistencia en español, oprima el...
Whoa!
Press 1. For parental controls, or to check the status of an order
Holy
or
shit.
return, press 2. For problems connecting to the internet or Netflix, or help with system updates,
Wow!
I am...
Can you update my Super Nintendo?
Wow!
It's 3 minutes till showtime.